Bret the Hitman Hart. Make sure you watch the Wrestling Roundtable.
Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. We are going to talk about the game, the cerebral assassin, the blah, blah, blah. Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And switching up the panel just a little bit, to my right, which is your left, Rodney LeConte, wrestling fan of 24 years, kinda. What have you been up to, Rod? What's the latest?
Well, the latest was part 1 of the documentary that I'm glad that all the fans have enjoyed. Ready for another year.
You can follow us on Twitter at Rest Roundtable to find out more. We're also on Blog Talk Radio. Our archives are over there, especially Season 1's audio, which is not on YouTube anymore. And you can get all the links on our YouTube page now and WrestlingRoundtable.com. Talking about Triple H, because his career was almost over the other week. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right? we can only dream, never.
After the Killer Kowalski school, of course, he had a little run in WCW, which was rather uneventful. And after going through a couple different names, he carried over that blue blood sort of gimmick into Hunter Hearst Helmsley in 1995. And the rest is history. Of course, we know he went through different character changes. DX, the first version in 1997, then into the game, and then into cerebral assassin, never going away, many-time world champion. Talking about his early career, though, one of the most infamous moments, of course, is the Madison Square Garden curtain call in 1996 when Hall and Nash were leaving for WCW, breaking kayfabe with Shawn Michaels, because who cares about that? It's a house show. We're going to all celebrate, and because Michaels was champion, the other two left. Supposedly the story is Hunter Hearst Helmsley took the brunt of it and he was held down. That was actually the basis for the game character in 1999. I was held down and now I'm the student of the game and blah, blah, blah. Do you think he was really held down, or was he one of those guys that was really even, okay, you don't win King of the Ring this year, he won it the next year, was going to happen anyway?
Well, he won the Intercontinental title that year anyway.
Right.
So, like, he may have been punished a little bit. He may not have won so many matches that year. But come October, it was, of 96, he was the Intercontinental champion. Then he dropped it to The Rock, and then he was feuding with Mankind, had one King of the Ring, and went from there. Like, so could you really say you're held down by much? Maybe prematurely held back from maybe one accomplishment?
Well, it certainly sounded good in that interview on Heat in 99, but one of the things people always talk about with Triple H is because he married the boss's daughter. Mm-hmm. People in the company or not seem to have different takes on Triple H too. Guys like Scott Steiner or whoever who used to work there who have some sour grapes, even guys who come back like the New Age Outlaws say, fuck Triple H, he held people down, egomaniac, this and that. And other people are like, the guy doesn't touch alcohol and he's a really cool, funny guy and blah, blah, blah. So there's different takes on Triple H in varying degrees, but that seems to be the sticking point. Like, he married the boss's daughter, he's set for life, and there seems to be some sort of sinister thing behind that. But it seems kind of genuine when you see the pictures of, like, the family at the pool with Grandpa Vince in the background or whatever. But is that something he's ever going to shake, that he married the boss's daughter and he's had so many world titles?
I don't think so. I don't think you could really fault a guy. Because Stephanie, it's not like she's like this obese woman. She's a hot woman. She's a hot girl. And if I was going to go for it, why not? We're not backstage, so we could only go on other people's words and other people's bitterness for not getting the run that they deserve. And maybe Triple H is the one at 4 a.m. in the gym when everyone else is still sleeping, or at the bar or something like that. He hasn't been really popped for drugs. He's not in any legal trouble. From our standpoint, he seems to be doing the right thing, but it's a cutthroat business. It's a Shark Tank, and you have to do what you can to get after it.
I think at this point it seems rather genuine, but another thing that people always get on him for is burying people. Now, that's kind of a heavy subject, and I don't even want to go into something that like happened on our Facebook group recently where people were really shitting on his wrestling ability, which I think is really unfair.
That's overstepping it, I think.
Right, because some of the things they were saying you could say about anybody, like he needs someone to carry him for a good match. Not really, but I don't even want to get into all that. About burying people, woo.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Right, so is that something that's deserved? Because sometimes, even though we're not backstage, stuff is plainly visible on camera.
Yeah.
And I think in 2003 and 2006, it pretty much was.
I mean, nepotism is a real thing. So, and I can understand, how do you stay on top? You keep putting yourself back on top. I just feel like that's what he's been doing the last couple of years. So, yeah, I think there is proof in the pudding.
But same time, a lot of people will say, well, if you have a strong character and he gets that heat all the time, you're going to keep on gravitating towards that person to get that much heat to stay on top. If you have a strong heel, even if he is bosses.
But I feel like it took a lot for him to become a a strong heel. He needed all of DX to become a strong heel. He needed the boss's daughter to turn on the boss to become a strong heel.
He needed to,
Well,
all these people turn on him.
He's had a lot of grooming for it, and that's what helped him stay there, and which has helped him remain someone who's got enough heat to continue.
But did he stay there because of him, or were the fans begging for him to stay there? Because Triple H he's great. He's the greatest in his own world. Not a lot of people when they say the top 5 greatest wrestlers. Triple H is.
He doesn't transcend wrestling like Rock or Austin or Hogan in any way. But that being said, what you pointed out about he needed all this to get over is kind of what I was getting at with the whole, wasn't he going to get a push anyway? Kind of like Randy Orton. Like, they're going to stick, well, not recently, but they're going to keep pushing this guy until it works. And that's certainly what it felt like in 99, marrying the boss's daughter, reforming DX as his cronies, which I enjoyed. But it just seemed like we're going to get this guy over no matter what and stick with it. And that's fine. But like in 2003, 2006, it was so fucking bad. With
2003, I like it to name it the year of Triple H versus WCW.
Of course, but the counterpoint to that is, what about the guys he does put over? Like, he loses at WrestleMania a lot, or Batista 3 times in a row.
But he never put over anybody who was really better than him, though. He always put over guys who kind of sucked. You knew would have a sustained run.
Guys that they wanted to groom, particularly. They wanted to groom Batista, especially, so he's going to get that push. He was buddies with him until they agreed, so they pushed him up that far.
But it's also like Ric Flair. Ric Flair never put over anybody who was better than him. He just kept putting over guys who he knew they wouldn't have a sustained run.
He put over Dusty.
Well, yeah. Okay, that Buster was also booking. Dusty was a booker, though. Well, Triple H, think about it, did Triple H ever put over Kurt Angle in a big money match? No.
Not when it counted. He doesn't put over people for most part when it counts.
Yeah. Well, we could break down both sides, I think. But moving on, we've talked about his place, COO, whatever, in the company itself. And like I said years ago, and no one here agreed with me because Shane has a penis, and that means everything, that I think Stephanie and Triple H are going to pretty much be running the company.
We're just hoping you were wrong. Really.
Well, now, years later, Shane's out of the picture, and it pretty much looks like it's already starting to get the ball rolling with Triple H taking over different responsibilities. How do you think Triple H is going to run the company in the future, based on what we've seen so far in the past couple years?
So far, I think he's doing a good job. I mean, he's experimenting with bringing in top indie talent. He got Bruno Sammartino to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's a huge feather in his cap. I don't care what anybody says. The guy's a traditionalist. He isn't gravitating towards these big, huge bodybuilder freaks. He's going after people that are groomed, have enough seasoning underneath them, putting them in developmental, and then bringing them right up to TV.
I think it really helps that he's been there since '95, so he's been in the company through these different eras, New Generation era, then is there through the Attitude era, what we like to call it the Great Wrestling era with the Super Six, that whole era, and then kind of like the post-Cena era. So he's seen the different changes, and I think he could really help the company and upcoming wrestlers as far as helping them brand their character and what they need to do to get over the fans. I think he could do a really good job.
I'm still worried. I mean, for a guy who was always seemed like he was always on a power trip, now that he actually has the power, it's kind of scary. But
because
he stepped back, though.
Yes, but what people say is like the other year when he came back to beat Punk for no reason
and had a match with Nash
and beating Brock at WrestleMania, like you said, what's that accomplished? There is still that idea there.
Yeah, the old Triple H is never going to go
It's
away.
basically him saying, "Hey, check out how big my dick is." Yeah, I still got the biggest stroke in the company.
Stroking dick, but what you said, I think, is a lot of valid points. Like, he's a traditionalist. And granted, Sin Cara and Karma may not have worked out great, but on paper, it should have. Like, going after the top name in Mexico in another country, like, that's unheard of for WWE, at least recently. And yeah, he might seem like he's doing some good things, but I think the X factor here, because it's going to be the two of them, how much Stephanie's going to let him get away with, because her name is McMahon.
Well, also, Vince McMahon, everything has to go through Vince. And Triple H, I've heard that he's been wanting to turn heel again for a while, and Vince like, no, he wants him to keep face. So there are some things that Triple H may want to do, but they're not always going to get the green light.
From my cold, dead hands. That's when Triple H will get it. But we're going to talk more about Triple H's career when we come back.
When I was 14 years old, I had a dream. A dream that nearly a decade later, I couldn't forget. I felt it was my destiny to be a professional wrestler on national TV. A decade later, I finally made it. Or so I thought. In less than a year, it was over.
Right, so you disappeared, you're off television, you're done. What's the story?
And nobody knew why.
think a lot of people have read on the internet that I've got hepatitis C, and everybody else thinks I've just got brain damage. So.
This is the story of my final tour. On the shows where I started, with the people I knew.
No, I can't wrestle anymore. Please feel sorry for me.
It was the last time I'd ever wrestle. The last chance to say goodbye. The last hope for a resolution. The last of McGuinness.
Kurt Angle, the love triangle?
Yeah, the love triangle.
I remember being I hated the Helmsley Man era, but the Kurt Angle thing kind of made it watchable.
I thought it was cool. That whole summer made, they made it. I remember going to Cancun that year and like talking to some British girl, and we were talking about that angle.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy. That's how over it was.
Yeah. Well, it was supposedly that had a great demographic in terms of women tuning into it.
Yeah.
And then they blew it.
They did. Yeah. That was a great shoot. That was like,
I have to run this company.
Bad payoff, because the payoff would have required Triple H to turn.
You know what was good?
We were just talking about the bad payoff would have been. It should have after Triple H the wedding. He fought Vince McMahon. He should have fought Test because Test had all the sympathy, and that would have been a way better angle.
Yeah.
And Test would have been made Test the main eventer like that. Of course. And he probably had a good match. He was coming off that Love or Leave It match
with Shane.
Yeah. So he could have that could have really made Test.
Test was getting really over.
They didn't give a fuck about Test.
No,
clearly
not at all. Because that was what a Raw match like 2 weeks later after.
Actually, it was months later.
Yeah.
When they were doing the two-man power trip stuff, I think Triple H squashed the shit out of Test.
It took that long for them to get to a match between the two of them.
Well, I mean, by then it was a dead issue.
Kane and Ryder still haven't had the match yet. Still haven't had the Kane and Ryder.
Right.
Zach
I've never had a match.
Not really.
I'm just saying.
So is this Dolph Ziggler's first title?
Second. It's like the first one lasted all 7 minutes though.
Yeah. Was it just when he just took the title like, hey, I got it?
Isn't it great now that like you're a former champion and it doesn't matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody. Champion.
You know what was a great Triple H match? So we were at him and Kane.
Yeah,
MSG. Yeah. That was really cool.
Kane took the mask off?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of that too because people, again, in this Facebook chat were like, he needs all these weapons. And I'm like, everybody used weapons in Attitude Era. Anyway. So I was trying to think of like straight up no Gaga Triple H matches. And I don't remember that one having anything that was good.
I mean, I think like
they found out with a god-awful match, or was it before the Intercontinental title match? The chain match?
Oh, it was way after.
That was after that.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kevin Kelly and you're watching the Wrestling Roundtable.
Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. Want to mention The Last of McGuinness, the DVD I know many of you have seen, but Nigel McGuinness is a friend of the show, and I also consulted with him on this project. And speaking as a videographer, for the first time out, someone doing that, he did a really good job. So might want to check that out, Last of McGuinness. And we are also on Go Fight Live, GFL.tv, Blog Talk Radio, Twitter, Facebook. We have 2 pages on there, a fan page and a group page. YouTube, where you're probably watching us anyway, and get all the links on WrestlingRoundtable.com. Shane Hagadorn has joined the panel once again, and we were talking about Triple H's career, and the last segment was really a lot about what people say about Triple H. What are they going to be saying in the future about him, though, because he's obviously not going anywhere. What is Triple H's legacy? Obviously, I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. They've already talked about DX, but
he runs the Hall of Fame. Of course he's going to be in. He's going to have his own fucking wing.
Well, what do you think his legacy is? You do not like Triple H. You've made it plainly clear on the show.
He was a really good wrestler. I'm not going to take away from his talent. He was very good. He had his moments. I just don't view him as a legend.
Why not?
He never wowed me to the point where I had to see his matches. Because some guys, you have to see him. Like, I had to watch Hogan because he was like my hero as a kid. I had to watch Bret Hart because I knew I was going to see a phenomenal match. HBK, the same thing. Stone Cold, you knew he was going to do something cool. Rock had the charisma out the ass. But I just never saw Triple H as a guy I had to watch.
He kind of forced himself then.
It wasn't so there's that, but it wasn't so much that. It was didn't like do anything that made me think, holy shit, Triple H is there. I gotta be there.
But don't you mention him in the same breath like we talk about, let's say, guys who are matched up like at the top at the time, Hogan, Savage Warrior, Undertaker, Michaels, Brett. Wouldn't he be on the same list as like Rock, Hogan,
Austin?
Just
Rock,
because he was booked in those positions, not because the fans saw him in those positions.
When you were in the last segment, we were talking about he had all of these props to get him there. Well, so did The Rock. The Rock had the entire nation.
Anybody in the Attitude Era did.
No one gets to the top on their own. No. Everybody has props that they play with, whether it be other wrestlers.
You need supporting characters.
Exactly. And he was great when he faced other legends like Austin, Rock, Taker, Foley. It was great when he faced
those guys all made up the Attitude Era.
But when he was on his own, though, he just really like kind of fell flat with me.
Like put it
His
this way,
title reign prior to the quad injury, that's some of the best matches
2000,
that came
yeah.
out of that.
Him 2000,
and
great.
there was, of course, the period where he came back where we had to watch him and Shawn make love to each other on a daily basis in some really awful matches, except for the one on the last Raw of that year.
But there is something to be said, like kind of what you're implying. The year Austin wasn't there in 2000, they did so great, and Triple H and Rock were on the top of that.
Yeah. One that time when he came back, he just like you said, kind of felt he like forced himself. No, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm going to show you I'm the best. It's like, dude, we get it. All right.
What about the fans' reaction? The other Raw, you said that it was very funny.
he came out on Raw the other week and he was just going to cut a promo about WrestleMania, and I noticed that there are a lot of crossed arms in the audience, and they weren't as hot when he's a face. He comes out and he does all this before he throws the arms up, and there was like no reaction, not even a lot of cell phones or not a lot of flash photography like you saw at WrestleMania 17. The fan engagement just wasn't really there, I felt like.
He's a top guy because we tell you he's a top guy, not he's a top guy because he's proven himself. You think that's his legacy?
I don't know.
No, I think it's a little above that.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the extent of how great some of those guys that you were talking about were, but I don't think it's that low
He's
either.
the workhorse. Then he's the workhorse of that. You said The Rock with the charisma, Hogan same, Brett and Shawn being the in-ring workhorse guys, and Triple H was the, I guess we said the guy who, when you said 2000, when the big guys were gone, he was the guy who took the bearing.
That was when he was at his best.
Carried everything and had blowaway matches with everybody from the Taka match that, you know, the Maven I heard someone mention before he started.
Well, we're going to talk about the matches and moments in a little bit, but you have to say he's probably got the coolest entrance music ever. That's at least in my opinion. So what are some of your favorite Triple H moments?
It was SmackDown. I can't remember the specific date, but it kind of conveyed everything about his character at this time when he's sitting on the chair across Undertaker's throat. Talk like that kind of encompassed what that character was just in that moment. Like he was, I don't want to say the first guy, but he was one of the guys who came at the Undertaker like full on, really established his character.
Well, around that time too was when he was revealed as the guy who paid Rikishi, which is stupid, I know, but when he was beating up Austin and he put the gloves on, that was really cool. Doing it again after Survivor Series and whatever, it just got a little repetitive. But I also think the third time he won the world title, because again, when he was starting to be world champion, the beginning was off. Like he beats Foley instead of Austin, and then the six-pack challenge, and then Survivors, blah, blah, blah. But when he beat the Big Show on Raw, the first of 2000, that seemed like the christening moment for the game.
All the balloons,
the balloons,
and
DX. Like we know we're in the game era now. It's not getting off to the shitty start it did. What are some of your favorite Triple H moments?
The Raw after WrestleMania 14, forming the DX Army, and brings that the Click, brings that X-Pac, and that's when you knew that the balance of power is really shifting, that he's going to take DX.
He's going to step up.
Yeah, and he's going to make it into his own, and that's exactly what he did.
And what a swipe to get X-Pac back. Like, right in the middle of the whole war, too, man.
Yeah, that was like the first crossing from Nitro to Raw.
That was handed to them, and how many great lines did he have in that promo?
WrestleMania 17.
Yep.
I had no idea Motorhead's there. I'm a huge Motorhead fan. When they say, hey, we're Motorhead, and we play rock and roll, I'm like, what the? I jumped out of my chair, like, what the hell?
I actually think it was, and we're going to kick your ass. How obviously is he trying to do a Lemmy voice when he's like, yeah.
Too fucking obvious.
He may have killed Randy Orton, kind of purposely, but I think when Evolution threw out Randy Orton the day after SummerSlam 2004, that was a really cool way to do it.
SmackDown right before the match with Foley at the Rumble, when he did the big reveal of you're not fighting Mankind, you're not fighting Dude Love, you're fighting Cactus Jack, and he takes off, and they cut to Triple H's face.
Scared.
His reaction to holy shit, I'm fighting Cactus Jack sold it more than the fans like popping for it, more than him ripping off the gear. His facial reaction to that made that moment.
And all Foley did was just this.
Yep. And it was just that, oh my God, I just saw like my grave just got stepped on.
And that sold it like it was, I'm not just facing goofy Mankind, a completely different force.
Yeah.
Because the dude took off his shirt.
Yeah. Another great Triple H moment, though, had to be No Mercy 2007, when Randy Orton had to get handed the vacant belt that Cena had given up, and Triple H came out and beat him in the opener after Orton had been, what, 20 minutes?
We watched it at Hooters.
How much did I laugh? That was so fucking funny.
Last year, when Undertaker was trying to con him into the WrestleMania rematch and talk about Shawn, and then, you know, Triple H was, no, I'm not doing this. And all of a sudden, the game just came out quick. He's like, do you really want to do this? Do you really want the game to come out? And I was just like, whoa. I felt like I was back in 2000 again. That's a guy that I miss.
The press conference with DX. that got bleeped out.
Oh,
like we will no longer make references to our dick. Shit. Well, fuck me. You can't say that. Well, fuck, man. The original DX one with those three that was great.
97 DX would piss on 2006 DX. They had a lot of bad shit back then. But speaking of Mick Foley, as we did before, it was this guy's job, this guy's mission to make Triple H.
He did.
And he definitely did in early 2000. The two matches they had back-to-back from the Royal Rumble street fight in Madison Square Garden, which had one of the most fucking visually awesome finishes with the pedigree into thumbtacks on his fucking face, and the Hell in a Cell match a month later.
Visually awesome finish.
Right, at No Way Out. Those two matches really stood out as making Triple H. So what do you think are some of Triple H's best matches?
One of the Raws after WrestleMania 20 when he put over Shelton Benjamin. That was one moment where he really did the right thing, and even though it didn't really go far for Shelton Benjamin.
That's not their fault, though. In the bubble of that night alone, that made Benjamin.
Yeah, especially on the way other wrestlers are telling him that this is your moment, you have to do this or else your career is going to go nowhere. And very clean, he beats Triple H, and that was a wow, holy shit moment.
The entire Undertaker series, actually, all three of the matches.
Shotgun Saturday Night with a tombstone on the subway?
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. That's a good moment, too. But just from the WrestleMania 17 and the two more recent ones, I enjoyed all of those matches. They're all three different matches, too. Batista matches. He made Batista. Like, saying he doesn't put anybody over, he made Batista. That entire program.
That was his mission.
The quality of that. He was basically doing for Batista what Foley did for him. And Foley did for Orton, and Foley did for
speaking of like 97 with the shotgun match, like Mick Foley and him had great matches in 97 too, from the opener in SummerSlam 97, in the steel cage, and the Madison Square Garden Raw.
It was WrestleMania 17. I remember not really caring, and halfway through the match, I'm going, this is a great match. Halfway through the match, I'm like, dude, this is a great match. I think it's the best of all three of them. Even though the last one told a really good story, that was the best individual match. But Taka Michinoku on Raw, April 10th, 2000. I love that match. I will still watch it to the day I die. I'm cheering for Taka Michinoku to somehow get the victory in this match.
On YouTube?
Yes. During the 2000 run, he faced Rikishi. You're going to have a drawing who's going to match. Of course, the first one was like LJ Giant and Howard Finkel. Like, all right, come on, guys. I can't wrestle these guys. And this Rikishi one, he was at his best. He's like, well, fuck you, Frankie. Went out, had a great match. Of course, Triple H won, but it was a really good match and really helped Rikishi at the time. He was basically a main eventer, but that really cemented him as a main eventer of that era.
I didn't want to feed into necessarily this. He has to have all this surrounding him to be better than what he really is and guys helping him. But two of the best Raw matches ever involve him in tag matches. Of course, I've mentioned before the DX and Radicals versus Too Cool and Rock and Sock in February 2000. I still love that match. But also from May 2001, the two-man power trip, shitty angle, great match, where he fought He Who We Do Not Speak Of in Jericho for the tag belts. Those are two tag matches that really stand out in terms of Raw's whole tenure, and he was involved in them.
And regardless of the stupidity or whatever of it doing it, how he finished that match with his leg, the guts to gut through that to finish that match too, like says volumes about his character and his.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, well, what do you think about Triple H's character? Leave your comments, send us Twitter, Facebook, get in touch with us all the ways you can, and we want to hear your thoughts too. Get the links on WrestlingRoundtable.com. Next week, we're wrapping up the Wrestling Roundtable with our series finale. We're going to be talking about, looking back in retrospective, why do you love mixed martial arts? Why do you love pro wrestling? That's what we're going to talk about on our last show. Kind of a reminder of why we're even doing all this, why we're spending time talking about all this, spending money, blah, blah, blah. It's your hobby, it's your passion. We're going to talk about it next week. So for the panel of Alex Payne, Shane Hagadorn, Rodney LeCompte, Will Brooks, Orlando O'Neill, I'm Eric Santamaria. See you next week, but not me, Delirious.
SummerSlam 91, and it was just as SummerSlam 91 when Virgil, he became the $1 million champion. And then my right here, which is your right, okay, which, or the left. This is my left. But this is not your right, this is left. You have to stop asking when Lawrence is coming back. Your left, that was right. What is right? What is wrong? I don't know what anyone says in the Wrestling Roundtable. Ah!